Let's talk about batteries. The trail cameras basically use these alkaline type cells most of the time. And in typical situation with hunters using the cameras where they're only using just photos, very few at night, very short videos, which is more important at night because the LEDs consume a lot of a power. They can last for months out in the field. But when we have them around our home where we're checking the cameras every day or much more often anyway, we can use some of the longer settings. So we can look at a 1 minute long or longer video that shows us more of the behavior. Oftentimes you'll just see the first 15 seconds of it, but that extra last second, like the 16th second, can be the most important. So sometimes you have to go for a full minute. Almost all my cameras are set for 1 minute, except there's a couple that were more designed as hunters trail cameras and they only go 20 seconds or 30 seconds. Some of them only can go that far. Supposedly they can reset in 5 to 10 seconds and pick back up, but you usually lose something at that point. So anyway, when we're using these batteries along where I use them usually last me only a couple months. So it's real important that I get the best use out of them. And I'll show you some of the workarounds I've had also. Now all the brand names here give me about the same service life, except for this one right here, which is a non-rechargeable lithium cell. And I can almost go twice as long with this. It's a little bit more expensive, but in most cases it's worth it. I was first turned on to these cells when I was having a lot of problems with the motion detection not turning on quick enough, and some people suggested a higher voltage would make that work better. I don't know if that's the case, but I did get a lot more duration out of that. Now, one of the key things here is these batteries come in as usually a set of 4, and because the 4 of these was a nominal voltage of 1.5 volts, gives us 6 volts. Which also leads us to the fact that in most cameras, rechargeable cells, whether it be nickel metal hydride or nickel cadmium, which has a nominal voltage of 1.2, cannot be used without some type of alteration, which I will go over in just a moment here. Now, these cameras typically will run on a set of 6 here, or a set of 6 here, or a whole set of them together. Now, essentially what you're doing is you're running on 6 volts and 6 volts and getting twice the capacity. Usually it's not bringing up to 12 volts. It's usually just increasing the capacity of that. Now, you can not put in 4 here and 2 here. It doesn't work. You need to have the complete circuit here. There are some cameras that run on 6 cells. I don't have any of those. I'm not exactly how that divided up, but I think you have to have all 6 at the same time, which means they must be running on 9 volts, which some cameras will do. If you wanted to go a little bit longer, since you're around your home, sometimes you can go ahead and use a wall charger goes in there. And you want to be sure that you check right here. It tells you how much the input is, or look into your manual. And also on the bottom here, it'll show exactly what the polarity is on here, and I'll go over that in a second. So basically you're going to be using something like this, and on back here it'll tell you what the voltage and what the polarity is, and you're going to want to have the correct size jack on the bottom. Usually manual will give you that. They come in different sizes. So essentially what you'll have is a notation here where basically you'll have a dark spot here, and that goes over to there, and then you'll have a symbol here, and that goes over here. Pay close attention as to what the polarity is, because that's what it's going to tell you the center of the jack, and you want both the camera and the charger to be the same. Now, if you're enterprising, you can cut the wire and reverse them, and you'll have what you need. So if you have a hard time finding the correct polarity wall charger. Of course, this means that you're going to need to have electricity out there, but you never really have to worry about any power, assuming you have power that's on. Now, some of the cameras, you can put batteries in there and then use a charger, and it'll supplement that where the batteries will back up. but most of them actually have a switch that bypasses the batteries if the jack is in place. That's very, very common in most electronics. So with that in mind, you can see I have a camera here that I decided to go ahead and use a jack in the top here, but I used a lithium polymer battery. These are 3-cell batteries. The nominal voltage is 3.7 volts and charge up to 4.2 volts. And so the nominal voltage on here is about 11.1, which is adequate for the 12-volt input in here. This lasts me about a week or more because it's a pretty tired cell, but I cycle through all my charging of the different batteries at the end of the week just to make sure I am on top of that. Some of these batteries can go for 3 months, but I usually charge every month just so I don't make any mistakes on here. So here's an example that you could actually use a lithium polymer, assuming you have a proper charging for it. A lot of times retired packs, this is used in the model industry, model airplanes, and they start losing about half their capacity, which pretty much is useless for you because you lose the power and such, but it's plenty good enough to use in something like this. So you actually can get these things free if you want to. And they work basically through getting the right connections and going into the jack. Another battery that you can use like that would be a 12-volt battery that oftentimes is in all kinds of different devices. A lot of people call these motorcycle batteries, but this one originally came, I think, out of my security system. And they also do come in a 6-volt size on here. So be sure that you are getting the correct size. As an example, this one has 6-volt inputs. Now, keep in mind, there are some magic electronic things that you can do to utilize this battery in multiple situations. Such as an example, using converters. Now, these converters basically will take say 3 volts and bring it up to 6 volts, or this right here will actually take anything more than the voltage you need and reduce it down. So you can say put a 12-volt or a 9-volt or a 6-volt battery, or you wouldn't want to use the 6-volt because you want more than 6 volts at the other end, and convert it up. Now in this case, what I'll use is oftentimes is a 2-pack of lithium ion or lithium polymer batteries, which would give me roughly 8+ volts, and I'll reduce it down to the 6 volts. And that'll usually, in the case like this, it could last me over a month or so. Using the other way, where I can take a single cell lithium polymer battery, which is 4.2 volts, wearing down about 3.7, and bring it up to 6. And here's an example of what I've done on this one right in here. Is this battery is a whole bunch of in parallel lithium ion batteries that was in a flashlight, and it claims to be 4,000 milliamp hours, which I'm sure it's nowhere near that, but I usually use this circuit right here, and that boosts it up to 6, and this one lasts me about 6 months. So I like to play around with these things because we have the opportunity to do so, because we don't have to put it out in the field for 6 months. We actually can have it at our disposal and do all kinds of things we want to do. Now, another thing is we can take advantage of the nickel metal hydride and nickel cadmium batteries by increasing the number of cells. So here's a case where, again, did not use the jack in here, and I'll show you how I took care of that on the inside, is I'm using 5. So we talk about the nominal voltage is 1.2, so 5 times that is 6 volts. Now, I have a 6-cell holder for this, so I just shorted out by making a fake cell here. And you can do all kinds of things to replicate a piece of wood and wires at both ends, all kinds of different things. Just basically short out this cell. And the way I get power into the unit is coming up through the hole that was for the jack and just sticking the wires right into the respective areas right in here. And I'll show you another way that I've done that also. This works out really well because this is a 4-battery unit, eats up the batteries terribly, but it actually has pretty good pictures. But I don't worry about that because I use these, and this usually lasts me, probably can last me close to a month, but I usually charge it every week. I'll give you another example how I set up the batteries. Here's a case in which I actually used a battery pack here and put it to the charger port. Here's another case where I have a 5-cell battery pack. I've actually hardwired it right into where the batteries take their power into the camera. And then on this one is very similar to how I did that with the 6-cell pack and sorting out the cell, is I just created 2 fake cells so that it just attaches in there pretty easily. I can pull it out pretty easily and I can double check on it. And it just wires down through here to a jack. And you can see what's really nice is that the hobby industry has provided us with already pre-built 5-cell packs. Typically they use 4-cell packs, but to get a little extra oomph for the robots and radio control airplanes and cars, they've come out with this 5-cell pack, which again gives us 6 volts right here. So you can buy these already pre-made. You don't have to buy the individual cells and make a pack. And then a lot of times they have a connector that's designed to go into a radio control receiver, and you can make either an adapter to that or cut the wires and splice it directly in. All kinds of different ways in which you can do that. And I think I had one more I wanted to explain here. There are some cameras that actually are coming out with solar cells built on top of them, and typically those will charge up a lithium cell inside there. I don't have one of those. I really don't have a need for one of those to make the expense because I check all my cameras every day. But that would come into great handy. It'd be very handy out in the field, assuming your memory card is big enough to take care of all those pictures that you're trying to get. Now keep in mind, a lot of these cameras are used for security also. So there's a lot of opportunity to have them on 24-hour days for long periods of time. Any questions? Go ahead and put them in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe and share this video to help disabled animals with donated wheelchairs.